Hey everybody, Ace Chen and Liam here, and welcome to another episode of Form Fight. Form Fight is a series where we take a look at a Pokemon that has more than one form, and we have a look at the different forms available and see which one really is the best. And so we can see these Pokemon in head-to-head competition, we stage a Metronome Battle against the two, just for a little bit of fun. It's not really to determine which is the best or which is not, but it's just fun to see these Pokemon in action. If you're a fan of the Form Fight series, hit the like button to let me know that you're enjoying this series, and of course hit the subscribe button if you're new, so that you never miss another episode. But with all that out of the way, let's look at today's challengers. Today we're going to be comparing the two forms of the mythical Pokemon Hoopa, Confined and Unbound. Hoopa was introduced in Generation 6, and at the time of making this video, it can't actually be found anywhere in the Pokemon world. Hoopa at present is an event-only Pokemon, so can only be acquired during certain event periods dictated by the Pokemon Company themselves. Upon receipt of a Hoopa, it will always be in its confined form. However, if you choose to use the prison bottle on your Hoopa, it will transform into its Unbound form. Now let's compare the two. The Pokedex tells us that Hoopa Confined stands at 0.5 meters tall and weighs 9 kilograms. That's 9 bags of sugar. It also tells us that Hoopa Unbound stands at a massive 6.5 meters tall and weighs a whopping 490 kilograms. That is quite the difference. Since Unbound is simply a transformation of Hoopa Confined, not a separate Pokemon, they share a Pokedex entry, which states, in its true form, it possesses a huge amount of power. Legends of its avarice tell how it once carried off an entire castle to gain the treasure hidden within. It's said to be able to seize anything it desires with its 6 rings and 6 huge arms. With its powers sealed, it's transformed into a much smaller form. These two Pokemon forms are strikingly different. Of course, this is to highlight the fact that Unbound is the true form and that Confined form has the majority of its power sealed away. They do of course share the same colour scheme and both resemble genies in one way or another. Shiny-wise, they both take a huge shift into a more golden coloration, although this covers them completely, as opposed to their regular forms who seem to have more variation in their colour schemes. Now let's take a look at their typing, weaknesses and resistances. Firstly, Hoopa Confined is a dual-type Psychic and Ghost-type Pokemon, meaning it has only 2 weaknesses, which of course are Ghost and Dark, but bear in mind these are both 4 times weaknesses. The Confined form of Hoopa resists Poison and Psychic-type moves, and has total immunity to both normal and Fighting-type moves. As for Hoopa Unbound, it's a dual Psychic and Dark-type Pokemon, meaning its weaknesses are Fairy and Bug-type attacks, with the Bug weakness being a 4 times weakness. Bizarrely, this typing gives Hoopa Unbound 0 resistances, taking regular damage from all types that it isn't weak to, except for its 1 immunity, which is to Psychic-type attacks. Now we're going to take a look at the stats and abilities of these Pokemon forms. Now interestingly, knowing Hoopa Confined is supposed to be a Hoopa with its power suppressed, it still has pretty impressive stats. It has incredible special attack and special defense, whilst having decent HP and a great attack stat, even if its defense and speed are a little below average. Hoopa Confined can have only 1 ability, which is Magician, which allows Hoopa to steal an opponent's held item if Hoopa uses a damaging move, as long as it isn't already holding something when it does so. This can be handy for removing life orbs or choice scarves to take away an opposing Pokemon's edge, but it's not exactly the best ability to have in a competitive setting. When Hoopa's power is released from the prison bottle and it changes into Hoopa Unbound, its stats become even scarier. Whilst its HP, defense and special defense stay the same, it gets a 10 base power speed increase, a 50 base power attack increase, and its special attack changes to 170 base power. As with its Confined cohort, Hoopa Unbound only has access to the ability Magician, and we already know how that works. Rewind if you missed it. It's worth pointing out though that this ability does play into the lore of Hoopa as a Pokemon, since it's supposedly able to use its magic rings to steal items from other dimensions. So don't worry, it's not as if I don't understand why Hoopa has this ability, it just would be nice to have a choice of abilities sometimes, you know? Now it's time for me to decide which of these two Pokemon forms I prefer. I think I speak for the majority of people when I say I prefer the Unbound form, because it's basically the same Pokemon just with more power. Although saying that, Hoopa Unbound has a really annoying typing since it doesn't have any resistances aside from its 1 immunity. But then again, Hoopa Confined has 2 4 times weaknesses, whereas Hoopa Unbound only has 1 4 times weakness, so it's actually really difficult to choose which of these two Hoopa forms is the best one, because they both have kind of crummy typing. So if I have to choose, I'm gonna say Hoopa Unbound, which just happens to look the coolest. Plus, the Confined form was really annoying in the Hoopa movie, constantly shouting, "Ale, Hoopa ring!" in its stupidly irritating voice. Yeah. Hoopa Unbound for me, please. Now it's time to let these two Pokemon duke it out in the beautiful, merciless machine that is the Metronome Battle. Before we do start the Metronome Battle, as always, I'm going to point out these Pokemon that you see competing have max IVs in all stats, 0 EVs in all stats, they're not holding any held items, anything like that, and of course they have the same ability, because Hoopa can only have one ability, which is Magician, which, because there are no held items, means it's not going to have any effect on the battle anyway, so it's a completely irrelevant ability this time. So the only thing affecting these Pokemon in these battles, whether they have advantage or disadvantage, is their typing and their base stats. Everything else is up to our good friend the Metronome. Bring it on.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the first mythical Metronome Battle in the Form Fight series. Plenty more mythical Pokemon to come. Today is Hoopa versus Hoopa, Confined versus Unbound. Of course, we know Unbound have the better stats of the two sets of forms, so we know they're going to go first. Here's a Focus Blast, not going to affect the Ghost-type Confined Hoopas. So here, the other Unbound form is going for, what is it? Simple Beam. Going to remove the Magician ability from Hoopa Confined, but of course the Magician ability doesn't come into play in this battle at all anyway, because no one has a held item. Here we go with the Confined side. Shiny going to start off with Mega Punch, which is going to miss. So this is a fantastic start. No one's hitting anybody. Can you do anything, Confined? Secret Power is going to hit on the regular Unbound form, doing a decent amount of damage. Like, Hoopa's no slouch, let's remember that. Doesn't have the best defenses, really. Although special defense isn't too bad. A Flash is going to lower the accuracy of the Shiny Confined. That's a very interesting play. Will that work to their advantage? We'll see later on. Here we go with Shiny Unbound. Going to use Vacuum Wave, which again is a fighting type move. Doesn't affect the Confined forms. It's not looking good on the actual damaging side. We get Psychic Fangs, which doesn't affect the Unbound forms. All these immunities coming into play. This is fantastic. Here we go with an Acid, which is going to hit both forms. Little bit of damage, not a great deal to either of the Hoopa on the other side, on the Unbound side. Here we go with Unbound retaliating with Sand Attack. More accuracy drops for the Confined side. This isn't good. Now both of them have lost some accuracy. Here we see, are we going to get an actual attack from the Unbound side? Facade, which doesn't affect the Confined side. This isn't looking good for the Unbound team. I mean, on the plus side, the Unbound side have the accuracy advantage because they've lowered the accuracy of the Confined side, but the Confined side seem to have the better... Oh, I was about to say they have the better advantage with being able to actually do some damage, but Dream Eater doesn't affect the Pokemon that's not sleeping, so that was a slouchy move. Strength Sap is a brilliant play. That's the signature move of Shinotic, which is going to harshly lower the attack of Hoopa Confined whilst restoring the HP of Hoopa Unbound. That was actually a really, really good play. I'm really happy that we saw that. Here we go with a Cotton Spore, going to lower the already low speed of the Confined side, but that's not really going to play into this battle very much because Unbound, as we already said, has the speed advantage in this. They're just making sure it's a definite speed advantage. Low Kick is going to miss. That Sand Attack coming into play. Oh, how are we doing with the other? The other Confined is going to go for Thrash, and it is going to hit. Now that's going to do massive damage. Thrash isn't a move to be taken lightly. Of course, that the Hoopa Confined is now locked into Thrash as well for a couple of turns. Egg Bomb doesn't affect Confined. It's a normal type move. Confined is getting really, really lucky. Oh my word, Meteor Mash is going to hit. Finally, some damage on the Confined side. Massive damage, almost half as well. Unbound avoiding the attack again. Confused because of the fatigue now that Thrash hasn't come into play. That's a shame. Here we go with the Grass Knot. Avoided because of the accuracy drop. Oh my god, they're just dancing around each other at this point. Here's the Unbound team. What are they going to do? They're going to go with Pluck. Luckily, there's no held items to be plucked away, but oh, Shiny Confined. It's not looking good, is it? Oh my word. Shiny Confined is in a lot of trouble. Here's a Flail, but doesn't affect because it's a normal type move. That was very, very lucky. Metronome coming out, the confusion not coming into play on the Shiny Confined with a Mud Slap. Avoided because of the accuracy drop from the Flash. Oh, Confined are in real trouble right now, actually. Rapid Spin, it's going to be avoided, my word. Are they going to be able to do any more damage after that one Thrash? Oh, Shiny Unbound goes with Rototilla, which does nothing. Absolutely nothing to either of them. Doesn't do it to anybody. That's awful. There we go. Here's another Metronome. So that's lucky for the Confined team. They didn't have to suffer any damage. Leafage on the full HP regular color Confined, but it was a critical hit. Here we go with no more confusion. That confusion's not going to play a factor in this battle. Electro Web avoided by one of the Unbound. Who's the one that took damage? It's the regular color Unbound, who is going to lose some speed there, but of course the speed of the Confined team has already been lowered, so it's not really going to make much of a difference in this battle. Here we go with Heal Block, so there can't be any healing moves used by the two Unbound forms now, which is good news. Could have done with that earlier with the Strength sap, but beggars can't be choosers in a Metronome Battle. Here we go with Mist. Beautiful, going to prevent some stat changes. That's wonderful. But it's not wonderful for the Confined team, though. Let's remember that. The Confined team are in a little bit of a pickle right now. Psycho Shift fails. Well, that's good news. Good news for Confined. Confined are in a good position at the moment, but they do need to worry a little bit. It's probably a bit of a bad time to set up Psychic Terrain, especially with Psychic-type attacks not affecting the Unbound team. All you're doing is giving them a little bit more chance to deal more Psychic stab damage. Guard Swap. Gonna swap defenses. That's an interesting play. All stat changes of special defense and defense were swapped just then with guard swap. Although I don't think there were any, so probably a wasted move there. Mud Bomb, who's it on? It's on the regular Confined. It is going to... Oh, it's not going to affect the accuracy. My apologies there. Beautiful. Here we go with Unbound with the Dragon Rush. Is it on the regular? It's on the shiny. The shiny's going to go down. Oh, it looks terrible, doesn't it? It looks terrible. I mean, we could have expected this because of the increased strength of the Unbound forms. Confined last-ditch effort with the Dragon Pulse. My word. It didn't do much. Oh, that's such a shame. It's such a shame for the Confined team. Really, with those lower stats, they didn't stand a chance, really, did they? Especially when physical moves come into play. There's a Sand Tomb. That's going to damage Confined every turn. Confined needs to pull out some kind of bug-type moves or something, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, you really need like 2x scissors in a row or something. Grass Whistle, not going to even hit. Not going to put Confined to sleep. Confusion doesn't affect the Unbounds. That's got to be the nail in the coffin right there. There's the damage from Sand Tomb. 8 HP left. How is it going to survive the next turn? I don't think it's likely. Here we see Metronome from Shiny Unbound with the Gunk Shot avoided though. So there is still a chance, but I'm not holding my breath at this point. There's the Air Slash. It's going to be the killing blow to Confined, and here are your winners.
So make sure you let me know which of these two Pokemon forms is your favourite. Is it Hoopa Confined or Hoopa Unbound? Leave a comment letting everybody know which one gets your vote and tell us exactly why you think it's the best. Make sure you follow me on Twitter for all my latest updates and come and hang out in one of my Twitch live streams. If you'd like to see your names at the end of these videos in the credits and you'd also like to see these videos before anyone else, consider becoming a Patreon. It's only $1 a month, which costs less than the price of a 4-pinter of milk. If you're enjoying this series, of course, hit subscribe and turn notifications on so that you never miss an upload. But until next time, I'm Ace Trainer Liam. Keep on training.